Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. My name is Dave and my goal is to help you level up as a data scientist. And in today's video, I want to show you how you can basically automatically customize your Matplotlib figures so you can create better figures for your data science projects. Yesterday, I was working on some reports. I was struggling with something, but I solved the problem and I thought, yeah, let's make a video about it to show you how I work with Matplotlib and how I use it. So yeah. Hopefully you will learn something from this. So what I will do, I will just show you some basic examples. So let's hop into VS Code. So I've explained earlier in another video, which I will link in the description, that I use VS Code for my data science projects. And in that video, you will find how I've set this up. And also in another video, I explained how I structure my data science projects. So this project will also follow that structure. So that's what we're looking at right now. And I just want to give you some examples over here. So I will start up an interactive Python session here. Let's first of all import some data, because that is typically what a data science project starts with. This is a data set from a pump. This is an open source data set. It has about 51 sensors in here and also a machine status. What the data looks like is pretty irrelevant for what I'm going to show you. Just know that this is the data set that we're using. The thing that you typically do when you load a data set is you want to explore it. So you maybe run the describe or the info. So for example, let me take this data variable over here and we do the info. So we can see, okay, what's in it? Are there any nulls? Of course, describe the data set. So we get some idea about the standard statistical properties of this data set. To me, I'm a very visual person, so one of the first things that I like to do, especially when it comes to sensor data, is just make a plot. Because that just gives you a much better idea of what the data looks like and how it's distributed. So this was an example of plotting an individual column, but what I often do is I loop through a data set. So I here made a selection of the first 5 columns and we can plot the data over here. But now the thing is, I usually like to tweak my Matplotlib figures a bit to make them a bit larger, especially when I'm working with time series data, for example. I don't like the images to be square, so I would like to stretch them a little. So what you can then do, of course, is you can put in the parameter fixed size, for example, and we can tweak it to be another aspect ratio, for example, if we do it like this. And this already gives me a much better idea of the trends within the data because it's not so squeezed together, especially when you're working with larger data sets over a longer period of time. It can be very helpful to plot the data like this. But then there's this problem that every time you want to tweak your Matplotlib figures, you have to input these parameters like fixed size or line width, line color, legend, labels, etc. And that just gets really annoying over time. Now, when you're trying to make figures for a report, for example, where they have to be really on point and specific, then of course it's fine to type it all out and create a script and make the reports. But just for exploratory data analysis that you do all the time for every project, for every data set, you just don't want to mess with these parameters all the time. You just want to have a look at the data and then continue to the next step. So that can get really annoying. So luckily there is a solution to that, and that is what I will now show you. So how this works is you can set this up by customizing the Matplotlib with style sheets and rcParams. So on this webpage over here, there's a detailed explanation about how this works, and I will link this in the description. There's this list of rcParams that you can set at the script level, and after setting these parameters, all the plots afterwards will use the parameters that you've specified. So this is very convenient. I will now show you why. So how this works is I have another file over here, basically the same file that we just had, but now with the rcParams included. So let me just run everything. And basically what you can see here is I've set parameters for fixed size, face color, grids, colors, line width, etc. And now when we import the data again and we plot our column, you can see that we get a nice plot using the ggplot theme It's nice and white. It also has a grid, which has a nice light gray color. So basically by just running the commands over here, we get this plot. And so now instead of, if I go back to the other file, well, for every plot that we want to do, we have to include this fixed size and potentially even other parameters. Now we can just set it at the top of our script and then we're good to go. Same for the loop. So if I now loop through all the data, we get some really nice plots over here. And now to take this one step further to make it even better, what we can do is we can save these settings and put them into a separate file. So that's what I've done over here. If I go back to my project structure, within the source folder, I've added a utility folder, and in there is a file called plotsettings.py, in which I've copied and pasted all these settings. And what we can now do is we can use this file and import this within our other files. So let me give you another example. So here is the same thing. We import the data and we make a plot, but now instead of defining all the parameters in the script itself, we import it using this statement over here. So now in order for this to work, I import a library called system and I append the parent directory, because the way this project is set up is so we're in the data folder and then we have to go up one level to the source and then import it from utility. So we've basically turned it into a module. So that is how this works. So now if I run this, it will import our plot settings, and by doing so it will automatically run the lines within this file as well, because there is no function or anything defined. So whenever you run this import statement, everything in here will run. So now within this file, Matplotlib will use the settings. So let me give you the example one more time. We load the data and then create a plot, loop through the data, and as you can see, all the plots look really nice following the settings that we've specified over here. And now if you want to change some parameters, that's as easy as adjusting this file. So for example, if we want to change the aspect ratio and we don't want to grid this time, save this file, run this again. As you can see, we have this different aspect ratio and no grid this time. Now there are two things to keep in mind, and that is what I was struggling with yesterday. So first of all, in order for this to work properly, make sure that you have the following extension installed. So that is the Jupyter Notebook renderers if you're using VS Code. So within VS Code, make sure this is installed and enabled. So that's the first thing. And another thing that you should keep in mind is that there are some problems, bugs, I think, in newer versions of Matplotlib where this doesn't work properly with VS Code. And this is what I was struggling with yesterday. So I am currently on, let me check, Matplotlib 3.5.1, and I think I was on 3.5.2, so that is the newest version. But in the newest version, you get this strange behavior where you basically have to run all these settings twice. So whenever you import them and then do your plots, they won't work. But then when you import them again, so you run the lines again, then they work. But this is specifically within an interactive Python session. Might also be in a Jupyter Notebook, not sure. But it was working when I was running it just as a Python file. So coming up here and then run as Python. So for example, doing it like this. So that was working properly. Oh, now I get all the plots over here. So this run Python file. So it would work like that with the newest version of Matplotlib, but not within the interactive Python session. So that is something to keep in mind, and that is something that was driving me crazy yesterday. And then I found a post somewhere on GitHub where somebody was mentioning it, that it works fine in a 3.5.1. So that is the version of Matplotlib that I'm currently on. If you want to try this out yourself, I've created a GitHub repository for this project, which I will link in the description. You can clone it, test it out. And of course, you are not limited to the parameters that I've specified in this file over here. As mentioned, there is a huge list, as you can see, of all the parameters that you can set. So get creative, make something that you like, and basically the main goal, of course, is to create a style that works for you and that makes it as easy as possible for you to interpret the data. So that's basically what this is all about. Of course, you can also use it to create report templates. So that's another way to use this. So basically make a nice set of parameters that you can use for reports, and then every time you create your figures, you basically make sure that they all look the same. So so they will look cohesive when you put them in a presentation or a final report of a project, for example. So that's what I wanted to show you in today's video. I think this is a huge time saver, something I struggled with. I came up with this method to put it in plot settings. Yeah, I hope this will help you out. I hope that you find it interesting. As always, if this video was helpful to you, I would really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be making more videos related to Python, data science, and machine learning. So if that's something you're interested in, you should definitely subscribe. See you next time.